Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Red, White, and Ruthless presented by GoBillsPodcast.com, Nickel City Mafia, and Red, White, and Bills. I am your host and founder, Brett McDurphy. Glad to be with you on this Saturday evening to talk about Buffalo Bills football. Joining me today is my buddy, Sean Kula of Red, White, and Bills. How are you doing, buddy?
Pretty good. Just got to wait till Monday, and hopefully we're really good again, and we can be one of those few 3-0 teams.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it, and there's a lot of anticipation and build up for this game, and it's going to be one of the greater games to watch this week. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to like and subscribe, comment on this video, as well as let us know where you're watching the game from or score predictions that you do have for the Bills game. But Sean, let's begin. I'm going to skip the intro this week just because I think we need to get into things and just hit the ball running with what's going on with the Buffalo Bills. We've had 10 days off, and now we're looking at our pregame show that we're going to do. So let's talk about the Buffalo Bills, give a little bit of a preview of what we expect. I'll start it off with the head-to-head series against the Jacksonville Jaguars over the last couple of times that we've gone against them. We are 1-3 in the last 4 games against them, but the Bills are actually 28-7 in terms of their home field advantage that they have playing at home since 2020, which is a great stat to have. The Bills look like they're going to be without 2 key players in Terrell Bernard and Taron Johnson, but everybody else will be back. I know it's a little bit tough, but that's just the way that things work. We have Balen Spector that's going to step up, and we also have Cam Lewis as well as Jamarcus Ingram that will step up for them. But Sean, let's get into a little bit of a preview for the game, and let's talk about the Jacksonville Jaguars, and I'll let you talk about them.
Oh yeah, well they're 0-2, so they're struggling, but they got a lot of players on their team still, and Trevor Lawrence is also struggling, but that's the scary part. It's only a matter of time before they, can catch steam and start winning football games. And we're that next team up, and we can either end the season for them kind of shortly because data shows you probably won't make the playoffs at 0-3, or we could be that team that lets them get started and go on a winning streak like what we did last year after we lost to them. So kind of nerve-wracking just because they know what it's like to have their backs against the wall, and they're kind of prepped up for it. But yeah, I mean, they still got a great team. It's just hopefully we can come out to play.
Yeah, the thing is we have to come out and play. This is a team that the mentality is underdog versus, not even underdog, but somebody that's desperation versus a team that's hungry right now. And I love the way that the Bills are playing football. They've kind of found that identity for them. The ground and pound game, utilizing James Cook quite a bit, and then using the play action to get the tight ends involved in the game. Even though we haven't really done it over the first 2 weeks of the year, I think that the buildup is now that we're going up against a team like Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars that can put points on the board, that has a dynamic offense that the Bills are going to go up against, that can keep them in games, and their defense is what's going to help them out a lot with guys like Josh Allen, the other Josh Allen, going up against them, as well as a few other weapons that they do have on defense. This Bills team very well may have to put up a lot of points in this game and spread the ball to their playmakers, so that could very well help them as well.
Absolutely.
So, Sean, let's talk about the Jaguars offense, and they're going to be without a couple of key players. Evan Ingram, while he hasn't been noted as being out for the game, he is doubtful that he will play in this game. The Bills are going to be going up against a familiar face for them in former Buffalo Bill and former wide receiver number 2 on the Buffalo Bills in Gabe Davis, as well as their former center for the past few years in Mitch Morse. So some familiar faces come back to Buffalo to play up against their team, as well as a few other players like Travis Etienne. Tank Bigsby is also questionable for this game, so we'll see what happens there. But there's a lot of weapons on this Jacksonville Jaguars offense.
Yeah, I was listening to Doug Peterson talk yesterday or this morning, whatever it was. Uh, Tank Bixby's definitely going to play. He just kind of got banged up in his shoulder last week, but they said he's looking good. He'll be playing. And Ingram is more, basically 99% out. He didn't say 100%, but he said he's, looking good for next week, and probably not going to be ready this week. So I'm assuming he's not going to play. He's their, not their best weapon, but that's Trevor's go-to guy. And when he's not playing, you can really tell that they kind of struggle a little bit offensively, which that would be good for us because he had 100 catches last year. He's a great player, physical, fast. So him not being there would be excellent help for our linebackers that are all backups. So that would be nice. But where I think it might help us is Gabe and Brian Thomas Jr. They're down the field threats. They're not all
Right.
around wide receivers. So if you can kind of keep Christian Kirk in check and then make them have to push the ball down the field with Brian Thomas and Gabe Davis, they might make a couple plays. But if you look at their stat lines, I'm not 100% what Gabe's were, but Brian Thomas I think has like 2 or 3 catches both games each, and
Right.
a big play or two here. So he's not really 8 to 10 catches with 100+ yards every week, and of course Gabe is not doing that either. But we know he's able to come up with the big games. So, but I also think that another positive is we know how to play Gabe Davis because we had
Right.
him at least the D-backs have been playing against him for 4 years. So he knows a little bit about them. We know about him. It goes same thing with Mitch Morse. And speaking of their O-line, their tackles have been really, really bad the last
Yeah.
couple weeks. And then, of course, Mitch Morse has been consistent. The interior has been much better than the tackles, but as a whole unit, they've been pretty awful. So if Greg Rousseau and Bob Miller and AJ Epinesa, who destroyed them last year, can have a good week on the outside, and we can push the pocket with the interior guys, make it hard for them to get into a third and short, and make them go in a third and long, second and long. That'll be really tough for them to kind of battle out of. And they were also having struggles with field position the last couple of weeks. So if we can continue that streak, I think we can have a good day defensively.
Yeah, I completely agree with what you're saying, Sean. And that's some of the things that I mentioned on my pregame show on my channel. I mentioned, especially first and second down, the Bills need to make sure that when you go up against a running back like Travis Etienne, he's very good at being able to break tackles, just like Devon Chan was last week, even though he didn't have the biggest game last week. The Bills are going to need to worry about controlling the line of scrimmage, getting into the backfield, creating third and longs for Trevor Lawrence. Now, the other thing that I will say that the Bills need to work on is their spy game with Balin Spector. They're going to need to spy on on Trevor Lawrence. He's really good, especially on third downs, of being able to use his legs to escape the pocket. Just like last week when we had Tua Tagovailoa, we also had Kyler Murray in week 1, and we saw what happened. Sometimes when Kyler Murray escaped the pocket, he was utilizing his legs and being able to get first downs. And that's what we're going to see with Trevor Lawrence. While he's not the fastest player in the world, he's somebody that is smart. He's very decisive when he does decide to run. And we'll see what happens out there on the field on Monday. But this Bills team needs to worry about Trevor's legs because he's another playmaker on this offense that can pick up first downs and extend drives that's going to hurt the Buffalo Bills.
Absolutely, yeah, he did that a couple times last week, and it was like a positive and a negative though because they had a long run with Trevor Lawrence, but then they ended up getting a delay of game penalty because they couldn't get the playoff in time.
Right.
And the first couple of weeks with them, it hasn't been because they're not a physical football team or because they're a good football or because they're getting bullied. It's because they've lacked detail all across the board, offense, defense, special teams, and that's where it kind of worries me too because it's like, can you fix that in a week? and then all of a sudden be an elite football team like people expect you to be, or is it going to take a lot of time to fix those little details? Because we're a very detail-oriented team, and you can tell by the way we've been playing, and the Jags have just been failing at that. So,
Right.
are they going to continue that, and it could be a really good game, or are they going to continue to struggle with missing blocking assignments? And like, even I was listening to one guy, I forgot his name, but he did a great job. I want to say he played for the Jags too. I can't remember his name, but he has his own podcast, and he was mentioning how, with the offensive line struggling, guys like Gabe Davis were also struggling, missing blocks too. And then, surprise, surprise, there's been miscommunication with Gabe Davis and Trevor Lawrence.
Right.
And I even commented, I said, part of the reason Gabe Davis is with you guys is because even after 4 years with Josh Allen, there was still miscommunication, and Gabe Davis lacks attention to detail, and that's kind of why we let him go. Not because he's not talented, but
No.
at the end of the day, 4 years and you still can't be on the same page as your quarterback. So I'm not surprised there. So
Right.
it's just little things for them. And I mean, their defense, they've been, I know we're going to talk about them in a little bit, but they only have given up 19 points a game. And
Yeah.
we're giving up 19 points a game as well, but we're scoring 32 and they're scoring 15. So
Right.
that's the difference between being 0-2 and 2-1, or even 1-1. They probably should have beat Miami, but they
Right.
fumbled, the detail. They fumbled the ball in the end zone and lost the game. So yeah, overall, I think offensively, if we continue to do what we do their offense against our defense, they're not as potent as Miami was. The only thing I'll say to everyone is maybe not expect the same exact kind of performance, because we do match up well against Miami. We do play them constantly, so that does go into a little bit of how well we play against them, is that we play them so often.
Right.
And Jacksonville, last year it wasn't horrible defensively, but they still scored in the 20s, and we forced turnovers and still lost the football game. So again, they could definitely score. There could be a potent offense, but they've just been reeling for a minute, and I don't know how quick it's going to be for them to get out of it.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And with this team, like you mentioned, this team is somebody that's decimated to get a win. I mean, they need to get a win right now. They're a team that's struggling, going 0-2, especially when you're going up against a team that's trying to push themselves into being one of the best in the AFC. This is time for spoiler alert, And I mean, I'm going to say this right now: the Bills very well need to go out of this game and start off hot, but they also have to understand that they could very well be on upset alert, because this is the team that they can put up points. They can do a lot of great things, and Doug Peterson is no slouch. He's going to make sure that he gets things under control. That's what the part of being a Super Bowl champion coach is with him, and he will get this offense figured out. He's going to make sure that he does that. But with the Bills, even when you have 10 days off, and that's the thing that kind of worries me, is the momentum that we had. We were going in the right directions each and every drive, and we were doing great things. Is the momentum going to shift because of having extra days off and not playing and sitting on the couch and everything? And now the build up that you've had with players that aren't playing, for 10 days, is that going to hurt them? And the other thing that I will mention is what Ed Oliver said earlier in this week. He said that the last few times that the Bills have played the Jacksonville Jaguars, it's been weird games where you remember last year, not last year, but a few years ago, the 9-6 game where the Bills lost that one. You also remember the London game and how weird that game kind of was, how the Bills didn't have any momentum, didn't have any energy. That's what worries me about this game. Is it's another kind of weird situation where the Bills get 10 days off. Is that going to hurt them with the extra time? That's something that you need to start figuring out.
Yeah, it's tough because it's hard to judge. Some people say they have our number, but I mean, just beating someone twice in a row doesn't really mean you have their number. And then again, remember last year, even Travis Etienne said they had a significant advantage because they were in London already the week prior. He said, "Oh yeah, since we were already here, we already dealt with that jet lag and feeling like crap the next couple of days after we arrived, so we were ready to go, and they weren't because of that." And if you remember, we didn't get there till Friday, and they made them stay up all night. And as soon as they got to London, they made them practice after not sleeping all night, and then they try to sleep, and then they played Sunday. So I definitely, and we still should have won that. We only lost the game by what was it, 4 or 5.
5 points.
We should have won the game regardless because we had opportunity to win it multiple times actually, and ended up losing. So it was a weird situation, but I think this is a little bit different. It's early in the season, and we've been banged up, but we came off an emotional good win against Miami, and then you have 3 extra days to prepare. Watching tape on the Jags the first 2 weeks, and then you can watch the tape on them on Sunday while they're playing, and you can watch more tape and game plan longer. And we're home, so we have a ton of advantages this time. We're home, Monday night, so it's prime time, and then we got extra days off, and they didn't. And but they do technically have 1 extra day than they would have had. But Doug Peterson mentioned they actually watched Houston film on their extra day, so they're kind of, I wouldn't say overlooking us, but they didn't use that extra day to plan for Buffalo. They used it to plan for Houston.
Right.
So they play Houston next. And I heard that, and I was like, that's kind of, I don't know if I'd admit to that to the public, but that's what he said. So how well did we use our extra time to rest, get in the ice baths, stretch, get ready to go? And how often were we in the lab studying and doing film and watching tendencies and things like that? So I will be prepared. I totally get it though. I mean, I feel the same way after bye weeks. How are we going to play after 2 weeks of not playing? And slow. I mean, we are 6-0 or 7-0 off of buys, but we don't really look great. And this is kind of a mini one, but I think it's early still, and I think we'll be locked in. And we should understand that they're desperate, and around their locker room, they're saying, well, this is a great time to we get to show the world we're not what our record shows. We're on prime time. We're playing a great team in their house. We get amped up for this kind of thing, and they were a better road team the last couple of years, is what they were saying. So they want to punch us in the mouth. So are we going to respond first and then make them have to punch back, or how are we going to respond when they punch us first? And we got to respond. Especially, there's no excuse, and they're still a great team, but not even because of the record. There's no excuse to lose this game. We're not struggling like they are. They are struggling, and even if they're at their best and we're at our best as well, we're at home and we have longer rest. So I really think that this should be probably our most complete game so far this season, and we'll see.
Yeah, you're right. And matching the intensity is one thing that I really want to see from the Buffalo Bills this week, especially when you're going up against a team like the Jacksonville Jaguars, that is a team that could very well make a run for the playoffs, even though they are 0-2. They're a team that, they do damage in the playoffs. I'm going to say that right now. They'll go up against the best. They've had some tough games, even though they did lose to Miami. They also lost last week. They're a team that they can put up some points. I'm going to tell you that right now. This is a team that you should not be sleeping on. You shouldn't be moving on.
Right.
This is a team that you should very well be prepared for, and matching the intensity and going punch to punch with them is going to be tough. But that's one thing that the Bills really have to do, is not look ahead of their opponents. That's kind of something that we did last year. I want to see the Bills in games, focused in games, and ready to go and start off games fresh and hot.
Absolutely. And Trevor Lawrence is 0 for his last 7 games. So, it goes back to last year. Obviously, he was hurt last year, but let's not be that team that lets them get momentum. And if you have a chance to go 2-0 in your conference, you cannot, again, it's not 100% done, but you have a chance to essentially knock one of your conference rivals out of
Yeah.
playoff contention. Because again, if Houston wins and they're 3-0, I mean their whole division's 0-2 except for Houston. But again, the analytics were since it was like 1990 or whatever.
Mm.
Only like one team has made it to the playoffs after 0-3, and it was like the '92 Chargers.
Right.
Or there was two teams that made it, and one of them won a playoff game. So, and again, the Ravens might be 0-3. So there's going to be another great possible 0-3 team that can, probably make it is the
Right.
Ravens. That would be my guess. But we play them next. So, if we just keep our focus on the Jags and we play a great football game, we're, again, 2-0 in the conference, and then you're starting to get that because we lost a lot of conference games last year.
Right.
Patriots, Broncos, Jags, Jets. It was just you want to pile those conference wins on. So if we can do that early, we're looking good.
Yeah, I completely agree. And you look at what we have coming up. I mean, the Bills, obviously Monday Night Football this week, but next week going up against the Ravens on Sunday Night Football, that's an away game. You look at the 1:00 game on October 6th against the Texans, another away game. You look at the week after, that's an away game on Monday Night Football against the Jets. Those are all hard games that the Bills are going to have. These are all teams that are vying for playoff spots. And for Buffalo to start 3-0 with a team that's pretty well off towards missing the playoffs, you got to beat these teams. You can't have a team that's 0-2 and trying to rally back. You got to take care of business. And that's what I want to see for the Bills there.
Absolutely.
Sean, let's turn it over to the defense. We've talked a lot about the offense of the Jaguars. Let's talk about the defense of the Jaguars. I'll let you lead things off, but let's talk about the defense of those Jaguars.
Yeah, again, it's only 2 weeks, but only giving up 19 points a game. That's enough to win a football game. They also did pretty good against Miami, minus that big 80-yard touchdown from Tyreek Hill. But I mean, it starts with their front. I mean, you got Eric Armstead, defensive tackle. He's very, very good. And, of course, Josh Allen, one of the top sack leaders every year. And then Trayvon Walker, I think he was also a first overall pick for them the year after, the second year after Trevor, I believe, maybe the year after Trevor. But he was also a top pick, and he got double-digit sacks last year. So this is a very good defensive line. And then when you go to their linebackers, Foye Oluokun, he's one of those guys that get over 150 tackles every year. So they have a lot of great players on that defense. They have been really good stopping the run, but I do think we have a great offensive line. We're also very physical. So this is two physical teams going against each other, and who's gonna want to win it more? Because it's easy to bully someone when you're more physical. Like when we play Miami, we're way more physical than they are, so it's just bully ball all the time. So when you're going against other bullies, you're not going to win every single time, but you still got to push the line of scrimmage. And if we can get to the second level and still push the line of scrimmage, and I mean Josh Allen, they're going to make plays. Again, they're not going to be Walker, Armstead, and Allen aren't going to be shut down to 0 tackles, 0 pressure, 0 sacks. They're going to make plays and tackles, but we have to be the ones enforcing and imposing our will. And again, they lost their starting boundary corner, Campbell, and then I mean they still got pretty good safety, Andre Cisco, and again pretty solid defense. But I think we'll be able to. I mean, we still got to try to run the ball. I mean, you can't just they're great at stopping the run, so let's just not run. Because again, that's a big part of what we do. I'm not saying run 80% of the time. You guys know how I feel about that. But if we can run the ball on first down, or hopefully not every first down, but when we do run the ball, or when we do get we're in a first down situation, the key is to not fall on the second and long. It might happen once in a while, but you don't want this team to get into obvious pass rush situations and then have to, 3rd and 15 or 2nd and 12, and you have to throw the ball for sure. And then, we got a great offensive line, but when you got multiple double-digit sack people, yeah, it's going to be tough. And I
Yeah.
think we're a top 5 unit. I'm not worried for anybody, but you got to be prepared for a pretty good pass rush. And again, I think we're up for the challenge. I think it'll be our biggest benchmark kind of game for our offensive line too, which would be really awesome to see. And again, I think we can do. I think we did pretty well last year against them, but I mean, Josh Allen, he's a special talent. So I'll be looking forward to him and Deion Dawkins one-on-one again.
Yeah.
And again, I still think we can push the ball in the middle of the field. I still think we can test the boundary, but again, stick to what's been working. The short to intermediate, get the ball to your playmakers, let them make plays. Don't try to force anything. And again, eventually, you see it a couple times a game. They bring the safety down. They don't play cover 2, and then you could take a deep shot, and Allen hasn't hit on them. But it's been there. So we'll see. I think it could be as good as their linebackers are. I don't see them keeping up step for step with guys like Kincaid or Curtis Samuel or Shakir. So I'd like to see more of that this week too.
Yeah, you mentioned a lot of the players on defense, Sean, but I'm going to mention one that you didn't mention. You talked about Campbell being out as well, but like I said, I'm going to talk about one. Foyesade Olakonu. He's somebody that we need to definitely talk about. In 2 games, 19 tackles overall. 8 of those were assisted, 1 sack in the game. He's had a couple of great games in a row, especially against the Browns, having a sack in that game. Somebody that the Bills need to definitely watch out for. He can dictate games, like I mentioned, and we're going to need to worry about him in the run game, especially even though he is a linebacker. He plays more like a safety, so the Bills are going to need to worry about him. You mentioned Trayvon Walker going on the opposite side of Josh Allen. You also have to mention Eric Armstead in the middle of that defensive line room. He's going to need to command 2 guys in the middle as well. But the Bills are going to need to run the ball, like we mentioned, to be able to get to through the game. You're going to have to dictate the time of possession battle, and I think that's going to be the biggest key for the Bills is to win this game, is to control the time of possession battle.
100%.
All right, Sean, let's move on to keys to the game for the Buffalo Bills to get a win against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Let's talk about your first key to the game. We'll go back and forth on keys to the game. One key to the game that you have here.
Yeah, good red zone defense. They've been getting to the red zone and then settling for 3 points. So continuously allowing them to only kick field goals will be a deciding factor in this kind of game. Because they will, again, they got weapons. They can move the ball, and they might, even though we had a great defensive performance, they can still move the football. We saw Arizona move the football pretty well, and if they get into the red zone and you can hold them, and they're getting 3 points, and we're getting 7, I think that's it's gonna be one of the biggest, especially because they've been struggling. It'll be one of the biggest keys.
One of the biggest keys for me is going to be playing mistake-free football. The Bills, last week, they did a great job. Only 1 penalty for 5 yards. That was the Spencer Brown false start that he had. I want to see that same recipe this week. Go into the game fundamentally sound, understanding your assignments, and making sure that you are not giving up 3 points, not kicking yourself in the foot, hurting yourself on these plays. Let's go into this game, be ready, and be engaged in the game, and ready for whatever is going to be at stake in this game.
Absolutely. Another one for me, obviously, it's something I say every week and everyone says, you got to win the line of scrimmage on both sides of the football. Again, if we can continue to dominate like we have been, it just makes it easier for the running backs. It makes it easier for Josh. It makes it easier for everyone if we can continue to win the line of scrimmage. And it makes it easier for Joe Brady too, because then we can do everything we want to do. If we're not winning the line of scrimmage and we can't do everything we want to do, we haven't been in that situation yet. And we don't want to be in it yet. we never want to be in it. But it'll be interesting if they do, because I've always been wondering what's going to happen when they do stop the run. When a team does stop the run on us, like very well, like Cook's got like 8 carries for 15 yards. What are we going to do? And this could be one of those games where we might not be able to get as much, not even because of the O line, just because the linebackers are so good,
Right.
making tackles and hitting gaps. But again, I still think we could have a solid performance from the O line, and James Cook can have a good day. But what's going to happen if they do stop the run? That'll be interesting. But again, win the line of scrimmage and then defensive line, make it hard on Trevor. He's got one total touchdown in 2 weeks. He's
Right.
missing a lot of guys. His completion percentage is in the 40s. He just hasn't looked like the Trevor Lawrence that people expected him to, especially after getting paid. And again, if you can get them into long second downs and long third downs and have to force them to push it to Gabe Davis and Brian Thomas Jr. And Brian Thomas Jr. has made some good plays, but we all know with Josh Allen throwing the football too, the more downfield plays, 30, 40, 50-yard passes, 20-yard passes, more opportunity is for a turnover. So let's kind of try to force them into plays like that, and then we'll find out. We'll figure, we'll play like we did last week, getting the turnovers.
Yeah, I completely agree with what you're saying there, Sean. I mean, you hit the nail on the coffin. Another area for me, this is one that's going to be a pivotal point, is special teams. I need to see more out of the special teams game, especially with the coverage on special teams. The Jaguars have some weapons out there on their special teams. Got to be able to get down the field and get off of your blocks, make plays, and don't give up big plays there. The other thing is with Tyler Bass, the situation that we're kind of in, hosting 2 kickers earlier in the week. I know to kind of put a little bit of pressure on him. This is going to be a game where the conditions are with wind gusts up to 30 miles an hour. Understand the conditions. And yeah, 15-mile-an-hour winds gusting up to 30 miles an hour. I need to see more out of Tyler Bass. Let's start making those kicks. And even though you have missed a couple, I'm still confident in you. Let's go out there and let's get some points on the board. So special teams for me, definitely an area that I want to see and doesn't get a lot of love. This is one of those areas that I want to kind of throw it to them and put in a little incentive for them to have a big game.
It's early in the year, so you would want, playing in Buffalo, you finally get nice weather. But yeah, both home games are going to have 30-mile. Arizona, we played well, but it was 30-mile-an-hour wind gusts. Now I have another 30-mile-an-hour wind gust, and it's not horrible, but you're about to throw a football, right? And the wind gust didn't happen yet. It's just normal 15-mile-an-hour wind, which is not too crazy. Then you go to throw a football, all of a sudden the gust comes, picks the football up, and changes the trajectory. So. Yeah. I don't like that, but we played fine the first time.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, the conditions, there's a little bit of rain that could happen. Let me go over to actually the weather forecast that we were looking at. And this is what I'm showing for the night of Monday. So temperatures around 62 degrees, which is wonderful football weather to have. Cloudy and mild with an evening shower is a possibility. Winds could be between 9 to 20 miles an hour, wind gusts right around 20 to 30 miles an hour. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of cloud coverage, but probability of precipitation is 81%. And that's during the evening hours. It doesn't say the exact time, but imagine a little bit of a sprinkle in there. So that could very well happen as well in Buffalo.
Well, that sounds like a tough condition, wet ball, rainy, windy conditions. So if you can't run the ball, you're in big trouble.
Yeah, definitely. But it'll be interesting to see. Sean, any other keys to the game for you?
I kind of already mentioned it earlier, but we have to be effective on first down, especially because then it just opens up what more we can do, and then it makes you not have to get everything on second down. And then, feel like all that pressure of, it's 2nd and 10 or 2nd and 12. I have to make sure I get all of it right now because I don't want to be in 3rd and 12. and you can be in third and shorts and third and manageables, and then this continuous flow of the game like we have been. Again, especially if it's wet and windy, you don't want to be in those long situations where you gotta, wait for longer plays downfield to develop, and then with his hand being all messed up, holding on to the football might be a little bit more difficult, especially if it's wet.
Yeah.
And you want to just be able to keep doing your kind of football. And again, not that we can't block or anything with longer time, because we can, but you just want to be able to not go off of how we were doing well earlier in the year. And then if you got to wait and then, throw the ball downfield when there's a bunch of wind, when you can just hit the intermediates like we have been, I'd rather just stick with that. But again, the deep ball will open up because they're going to come down one of these plays like they have been, and then we'll be ready for it, and we'll see. But yeah, just got to be effective on first down.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I think that we do need to take some deep shots down the field, kind of open up this offense a little bit. We've utilized James Cook quite a bit. Let's see the more dynamic version of this offense with guys like Marquez Valdez-Scantling going deep down the field. I haven't seen a lot out of Curtis Samuel in 2 weeks. Let's get some wide receiver screens thrown in there with a little bit sprinkles just to get defenses uncomfortable with what you're trying to do. Then you can open it up with James Cook as well. But I want to see this offense led by Josh Allen go out there and try and put some points on the board and make it more difficult in the passing game. Even though we haven't had to do that over the first 2 games necessarily, I want to see more out of that passing game, get the ball down the field, put the ball in the right situations, Josh Allen, and make this offense even more harder to defend.
Absolutely.
Sean, let's go over the last segment that I want to do before we do score predictions. Let's go over one player on offense and one player on defense that is a must-stop player for the Buffalo Bills, starting with the offense of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Give me your player.
I'll probably say ETN, just because I want them to throw the football, and I want to be able to win that way. If they can run the ball down our throat constantly, and they're getting 4 yards, 5 yards, 8 yards, it's just that's gonna be trouble. But if we could stop him and make him again have to throw the football, especially if it's windy and rainy, and again you got guys that are more downfield threats, and I mean Christian Kirk is a great slot guy, and their passing game really runs through him, but he got locked down last game, and we don't have Teron Johnson, but we saw our guy step up in his absence. So if they can keep him and he did good against us last year too. But if we can keep him kind of quiet and then have to force Gabe Davis and Brian Thomas Jr. to beat you, that's where you kind of want to be. Again, they're big playmakers, but they're not, making 8 to 10 catches a game for 150 yards. So you want them to be in that situation. And then ETN, again, he's a great running back. So if you can stop him, they still got Tank Bigsby, but if you can neutralize the run game, that'll be very good for us.
Yeah, for me, I mean, it's kind of vanilla when I say it, but let's stop Trevor Lawrence. I mean, let's stop his legs. Let's get him into third down situations that's uncomfortable for him. Let's put pressure on him with our defensive ends. Get consistent pressure with Von Miller, Greg Rousseau, Ed Oliver in the middle of the field. Make his life uncomfortable back there. That's the player that I'm going to say for offense. And then on defense, for me, I'm going to kind of steal the show for this one probably. For me, it comes down to Foy Olukosh, or I'm going to say his name wrong, but Foy Olukosh. I want to see the Bills be able to understand where he is on the field. Let's get into situations where we run to him to make him uncomfortable, but let's also get into situations where we put guys like Dalton Kincaid on him and make him have to defend other players and make it harder for him to get involved in the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. He's a game changer. He gets 150 tackles every year plus.
Yeah,
him and CJ Mosley are two of the only. I think there's 4 that do it consistently. Yeah, he's very good. And then obviously you got Josh Allen. he's a driving force of that. Of that defense. Got the best motor on the team. He's just a dynamic playmaker. Kind of, it doesn't sound like you'd want to do it, but we run zone run scheme. So if we run at him, he's kind of getting blocked out of the play. But if you run zone to the right, when you're pushing everything to the right, he can just be unblocked sometimes, and then make a beeline at James Cook. So we kind of did this with Micah Parsons. We ran at him, so he couldn't make that. He'd be the unblocked guy. So we want Trayvon Walker to be you can't run to the left every single time, but when you're running at him and the offensive line's gaps are going this way, you wash him down, and then he's getting blocked by offensive linemen, sometimes, two, and then maybe a tight end. So again, that'll be key. And then when we are running to the right and he's unblocked, make sure that the gaps are open quick so James Cook can make a decision, and then he's out of the play.
Yeah, you're right there, Sean. I mean, it comes down to making sure that you're doing a good job of that. But Sean, let's go over score predictions here, and let's give your score prediction for the game, and who do you think will win?
Well, I don't do who wins anymore the last couple of years, but I think the spread's 5.5. I could see it being a 6-7 point game.
That's a good prediction. I'm going to say Bills win, and I'm terrible at this, but I'm going to say 31-17 Buffalo win. And it comes down to a couple of things. I think that the Bills need to get the ball going with pressure on there. I see Bills fan CA coming into the chat, Bills by 4, like that. But I think it comes down to a few things. Get this offense going, and let's put some points on the board this week against the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Absolutely, and yeah, of course, every game's nerve-wracking, but you don't want to be the one to lose to an 0-2 team when you're 2-0, because then you already know if especially being us, if we lose this game, it's all going to go back to the first 2 games were fluky. We knew Buffalo was going to be this team that wasn't really that good. It was just the September Bills, and now they're back to losing ways. And again, just being realistic, you got the Jags, the Ravens, and the Texans coming up, all 3 in a row, and then obviously you got the Jets after that. But you could be 2-3 just as easy as you could be 5-0. So It's week at a time. And again, I know they're not going to be sleeping on this team, but don't let them hang around. If you get up on them, finish it. Don't just get up 14 to 3, for example, and then go 3 and out, and then it's 14 to 17, and now we got to fight back again. If I get up, just stay up, and then again keep punching, and then go 3-0, and then we'll see what next week brings. But again, we have a lot of advantages in this game, especially mainly being at home and then having longer rest and more time to prepare. So there should be no excuse to come out flat. There should be no excuse to be tired and weak. We should be good to go. And I expect a good performance, and let's hope we get it.
Definitely, Sean. I think it's going to be a great performance. You said it best there. But let's not forget to like, subscribe, and comment on this video. You know where to find Sean. He's on Red, White, and Bills on YouTube, as well as on a few other social media platforms. Don't forget to click on over to GoBillsPodcast.com to find all of the shows that Sean and I, as well as the rest of the gang, will have throughout the week. But also don't forget to click the notification bell on Nickel City Mafia on YouTube, where you can find all of the shows that will be on Nickel City Mafia. This has been another episode of Red, White, and Ruthless, presented by Nickel City Mafia, where our family business is football. We will see you next time, and we can't wait for Monday night and a win for the Buffalo Bills. For Sean Kula, I'm Brett McDurphy. Go Bills.
Go Bills. See you later.